show basically it's going to be one topic, I think, Pal, because there's so much going on that West Coast in LA, and it's not just going to be us out there. We do have a guest waiting in the wings. That's a friend of ours, and well, let's bring him in.
So I want to thank you all for being here, and now who am I introducing next? Who's next?
John Lubecky, how you doing, pal?
Hey, I was waiting for Joe Biden to pop up.
Well, how do you lead the world without
Lubecky and Gene? Just let me throw this out there. That intro had me crying, man. I did not expect that. That was freaking hilarious. I want an intro like that next time, Gene. That was funny.
I'll do my best. I thought that was pretty good. It was actually the first time we did it, and I snuck him into the screen under. It was pretty cool, if you ask me. So,
hey, Ross, what your intro needs to be is George C. Scott as Patton walking up in front of the flag.
we're talking about what's been going on in the news the past 4 days. It's dominated the news cycle. All of the riots in LA. I do want to set this up with a clip from today. This is Caroline Leavitt from the White House, which I believe is a good summary of the point of view from the president, conservatives. I think this is a pretty good summary of the past couple of days.
Transpire in Los Angeles, California in recent days is shameful. Left-wing radicals waving foreign flags viciously attacked ICE and Border Patrol agents as well as Los Angeles police officers. These criminals injured police, threw rocks at police cars and officers, burned vehicles, shut down freeways, and lobbed Molotov cocktails, all because the Trump administration was removing violent criminal illegal aliens from the city. These attacks were aimed not just at law enforcement, but at American culture and society itself. Rioters burned American flags, chanted "Death to ICE," and spray-painted anti-American slogans on buildings. But President Trump will never allow mob rule to prevail in America. The most basic duty of government is to preserve law and order, and this administration embraces that sacred responsibility.
I might as well stop it there because you're going to just keep going on and on and on, and that's for us to do. Ross, was a decent summary of what's been going on, or do you think it's not going far enough?
No, I think that, by the way, she's brilliant. I made this comment earlier today to someone. She's so well-versed and well-spoken on these issues. She knows exactly what the president is thinking or saying. A lot of people on TV, Gene, have been saying, well, a lot of Democrats, let me rewind. A lot of Democrats were saying these things were mostly peaceful, other than, a few cars getting burned, rocks getting thrown at police, and, a federal building almost being overrun before the National Guard got there. So how much not peaceful activity is acceptable to the Democrats? That's like the real question that I've been having over the last few days. How much violence is acceptable before it meets their mostly peaceful threshold to call them protesters, not rioters?
Realize that the radical left views Luigi Mangione as a protester. So to answer your question, because it is their side, anything is acceptable. I mean, let's be honest. Last summer, they were chanting "Globalize the Intifada." What does this look like? And some of the same organizations like PSL are behind both the campus protests and now the LA protests that have moved to Austin, Houston, Atlanta, DC, New York. It's the same people who were behind BLM. It's kind of interesting. They take actually good causes, turn them Marxist, and release the hooligans, and the news shows up, and what do? They say, well, if you just give them what they want, they'll stop attacking. And you hear this over and over and over again, both within the U.S. on different political subjects, as well as outside the U.S.
Yeah, you know what? The thing that I'm really interested in is, it's not necessarily the same people on the ground as with BLM or in other cities. It's different people on the ground. It seems like there's more of a criminal element on the ground with these protests, mainly because this is a crackdown on criminality. And I think that these criminals are a little more interspersed with people protesting for the sake of protesting, really. And I think that's what's making this a little more dangerous, John. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. And it's interesting because if you listen to the left and their sycophants, both in major media as well as podcasts and everything else, their argument isn't violence is wrong. Their argument is this doesn't look good for our side, so please tone it down or make sure there's not cameras on it. And the interesting thing is now we have, I have a DJI drone in the other room. I think Ryan Macbeth actually made a really good point to the police and the National Guard. This isn't just people holding phones. There's drones in the air recording everything that's going on. And this is also how, the DOJ, the FBI, ICE, whoever is able to figure out who these people are. Because, I'll tell you, I live in DC and I lived in DC on January 6th. Where I live in the Navy Yard, I can go to my roof and see the Capitol building clear as day. It's less than a quarter mile. So I had kind of a front row seat to January 6th. I want to be clear, I did not go in the building. I was nowhere near the Capitol, but I was able to watch it. You remember the giant manhunt that took, 60% of the FBI to go find all the people who went into the Capitol? Why weren't they arrested in the Capitol? The answer is, during a, quote, insurrection, the mayor didn't issue a shelter-in-place order, which if it was a real insurrection and the government was about to be overthrown, I think we can all agree would probably have been issued. But she put in a curfew for 6 p.m. I sat on my roof and I watched as the whole thing ended at like 5:45, and everybody walked to bars, they walked to restaurants, or they walked back to their hotel, and then they went home the next day. This is why they had to go all over the U.S. and find these people. This is the 5th day.
Right, but they're all in the same city, and they're not leaving the city, so it's not like they have anywhere to go, right, guys? I mean...
Well, they're not all homeless people. I'm sure they have homes they can go to. It's just they... part of it is they're masked and all these other things, and they just want to cause chaos, in part because they hate Donald Trump. This is their war against Nazi fascism and all of this, and none of them actually understand what Nazism or fascism is. Because it's been so diluted that you now have people who, when they hear Hitler was bad, think the worst that Hitler did is the stuff that Trump does.
Yeah, I agree.
And Trump is nowhere near Hitler.
Well, I mean, they both drink water. They both breathe air. So,
yeah,
so
but Hitler was a vegetarian, so he definitely would have been on the lefty side.
Ultra-recyclo vegetarians are always ready to protest.
Well, if you ask but you know what? If you ask Democrats, Ross, it's just like what happened in the 1930s and 1940s, right? I mean, it's synonymous. Orange Man is that bad man from WW2.
Well, let me rewind here, because you guys said a lot of stuff. Yeah, so you guys said a lot of stuff. Let me just fill in some blanks here. First of all, I disagree with both of you. These are the same people, okay? They are flying Palestinian flags. People. They're wearing the Palestinian garb. Same people, right? On January 6th, which, by the way, and by the way, on January 6th, which was by definition a mostly peaceful protest, right? By definition, you can watch it, right? There was a handful of agitators there that were disruptive. What did the government do? By the way, we're doing this now, and this is why the Democrats are scared. What did the government do after January 6th? You kind of touched on some of this stuff. They looked up cell phone data to see who was in the Capitol on that day. They looked up credit card transactions to see who was renting hotels and buying things in Washington, D.C. on that day. And then they hunted them down for years after January 6th. Well, guess what the Trump administration is doing through Kash Patel, Pam Boddy, and possibly, the DNI and some other people there, the DIA. They're doing that. Okay, so the Democrats are shitting their pants. And by the way, the mayor of LA said, it's pretty much contained to like 4 or 5 blocks of madness. Okay, well, January 6th was confined to one building on one day, less than a day, a few hours long, right? Can you people imagine what would happen if not only this year, imagine 2 years ago, that Joe Biden did something we didn't like, which he did a lot of things we didn't like, and then Trump voters in MAGA gear started rioting in major U.S. cities
for days
across the country for days.
From what intelligence has gathered, it would be 9/11 times 100.
9/11 times 100? Jesus, that's...
Yes, 91,100.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
And Russ, I absolutely agree with you. To be clear, these are the same people. Are the people in LA the same people that rioted at Columbia and took over buildings and kidnapped people? No, but were they on campuses in LA? Absolutely, they were. Because look, this is the Marxist intersectional BS, where everything they can do to protest and to it's all about the action, so you can call out the reaction.
Yeah,
that's exactly what
let
they
me ask
do.
this. Another proof for anybody watching us right now that may not believe it's the same group of people. Like, what percentage of the population has no day job and has all this free time to get involved in these random causes and like stay out all night and riot, right? Like, how many people are there like that? It's a small subset of the population. They all happen to be hardcore leftist, anarchist Democrats. And by the way, the Libertarian Party is taken over by the hard left too. So anybody out there who thinks they're a libertarian and they're above the fray, you guys are being led by anarchists too.
Well, hang on a second. Let me clarify what I meant by saying that it's not the same people. I agree it's the same type of people. But in BLM, I didn't see this many Mexican flags. During the protests on campus, I didn't see this many people of color. And in LA now, we're seeing more Hispanic.
Gene, in LA, you're right. But also, what was your perspective? In LA, La Raza was absolutely at BLM and they were flying Mexican flags. Were they doing that in Atlanta? No. Were they doing that in New York City? No.
Were they doing that in Minnesota, where the focus of it was in 2020, or Seattle? You didn't see them there, is what I'm saying.
By the way, just to comment on Maxine Waters' yet again lunacy, let's not forget that in 2021, she gave a speech in Milwaukee, and 2 National Guardsmen were shot by, in a drive-by in politically motivated violence, and now she's out again railing against the National Guard.
It is very interesting that you brought up Maxine Waters, because she's going to be coming up later on in the week when we talk about Buffoonology 101, cheap plug for the show coming up Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But Maxine's certainly going to be discussed there.
Foreshadowing.
Did you guys see the clip of Waters trying to get access to the ICE facility in LA? For those of you who haven't, this is comic gold right here.
Wait.
I want you to... Hello. Congresswoman Waters. I just came to use my congressional authority to check on baby.
Ma'am, our lobby is secure right now to all visitors.
Excuse me, I need to get in.
Contact our public affairs office.
I need to get in.
Denied.
Hey,
Go sit down
look, I will give her credit. She did not assault any law enforcement like the other congresswoman did.
Oh, the bar
who has now
so
been indicted.
Low. Oh, you're making the bar so low. First of all, her face is melting, and this poor woman's been in service for, I think she's now been in office for 17 terms, 18 terms, something like that.
It's been 84 years.
And what's her district? Is it LA?
I
Because
believe,
like she was up in
it is.
Milwaukee.
But whether it is or not, and we discussed this on the channel before, Ross. Yes, members of Congress have statutory access to ICE facilities, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to follow ICE's rules and regulations, especially during emergency situations like, oh, I don't know, a fucking riot.
Gene, they're not serious people. By the way, I heard Maxine Waters was playing center field tonight for the Democrats. Is that true? Can anybody
She covers a lot of ground. She covers a lot of ground.
They're unserious people. She's a clown, right? Most of the people on their side that are very outspoken are clowns. I'm embarrassed for the district that keeps on electing her. And I actually, when I see someone like that get reelected, I know like the instinct for most of us is to say term limits is the solution. I don't believe elections are real if she can keep winning. Like I'm past term limits at this point. There's no way she can win.
No. Here's how she keeps winning. I just looked it up. So she's California 43rd district, which is Inglewood in this whole area where the riots are happening. So the people rioting are the ones voting for her to do all this shenanigans.
Yeah.
I just honestly hope no National Guardsmen get shot because they likely don't have ammo. So Ross, one of the questions I actually had for you, I think one of the mistakes was calling up 117 out of Pendleton, not because they're Marines, but because they're infantry. The United States Marine Corps has military police that are trained in civil disturbance, are already briefed in on everything. He could have activated 700 MPs, which I think would have been better, because part of the fear I have is there's some crazy stories from the 92 riots when they called in the Marines. Because when a cop says, cover me, Marines open fire and lay suppressive fire, not train their weapons on windows and doors. So my fear is you're going to have a lot of young kids, like 18, 19, 20, 21. You know what an infantry unit's like, Ross. They're going to do something stupid and we're going to have another Kent State.
Yeah, so I think that the DOD and certainly the DOD and probably Donald Trump as well have no intention of using the Marine Corps in any operational role whatsoever. One of the reasons why you are not seeing any Marines on television, right? Like one of the first thoughts I had was, why did I see the National Guard get there before the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps is like close and they're active duty? Well, the reason is they're still going through their non-lethal training.
Yes.
Which is what's
delaying. If they had done MPs, they wouldn't have been delayed. They would have already had the training. And also, they had, MPs aren't just like cops. They also run detention facilities. So they actually, because the whole point of bringing in the Guard is to, one, reinforce security around federal buildings, but also to perform job functions. Like, if the National Guard had never been called out to the ICE detention facility, you would have sworn law enforcement protecting that building. So for every job, every function that we can put National Guard or active duty into within a federal facility, that's one more sworn law enforcement officer who's out on the streets. And also for all the internet people, using the National Guard during a riot to protect a federal building is not a violation of Posse Comitatus.
And that's something we should really emphasize here, is that the National Guard and the Marines that were called, it's not like they're out in these streets going after people. They've been called to defend and to protect federal property. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I mean, there may be some details that are accompanying ICE on executing warrants, but
these are also Marines, so when they're not on duty, they are going to be out in the streets and the clubs, trying to find some women or men to have fun with. So yes, the Marines will be on the streets. It'll be great for the economy of LA. 700 Marines are going to spend a ton of money. So are 4,000 National Guardsmen.
If you like that clip from our new show, Behind the Enemy Lines, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and tune in live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.